to be learning, is learning how to play the guitar solo for It's All Over. And it's not incredibly difficult. It's not like you're learning any band movement, but it is different. It's definitely something that does take time to learn. It's not going to happen right off the bat, and it is going to be just, plenty of practice for yourself as you learn it. My name is Exploding Liver on Reddit. I also have a YouTube channel, which I have here for The Blind Sniper. I don't know what I was thinking with the names, but it's whatever. They are what they are. I've had the YouTube channel forever, and I just never did anything with it. So I just kind of make guitar videos sometimes, and I don't really make any other videos, honestly. So what we're going to be talking about here is kind of getting this idea down on figuring out guitar solos in chunks, so that way it makes it easier for us to learn. I've been playing now for about probably 10, 11 years, so it's been a while, and I started improvising in terms of learning more guitar theory, learning more scales, and trying to get good, learning from other guitarists and stuff. Probably around my fourth or fifth year, and that's when I started developing my ear more. So now that I've been developing my ear through listening to more music or trying to learn music like this, it actually improves your quality of life musically immensely. So what I'm going to be showing you here is without tablature. That's not the way I operate, unfortunately, for some people. I don't use tablature anymore. I think it's much more vital for you as a musician, as a guitarist, to work on your ear skills, so that way you could figure out things like this. Now, the guitar tab that was provided here is close, but it's not 100% right. So I'm going to be changing things here a little bit because that doesn't sound quite like the guitar solo at all. That said, there was this post put on by Arestwig, I don't know how you would pronounce that, on Reddit, and he asked a variety of questions, and I'm going to answer them as I go through the lesson, but the very first thing I want to talk about is the guitar. I'm using a very cheap Epiphone Les Paul guitar. This is a Les Paul Standard, which is now called, I think, the Les Paul Traditional Pro or whatever the heck. It's just a black Les Paul. Okay, it has very crappy pickups. The frets are okay. Nothing about this guitar sounds amazing. What this guitar does need is a few new parts and new pickups for sure, and I can make this guitar sound wonderful. But I've had it since 2008, so it's an 11-year-old guitar, and it's, kind of a standby, and I'm using it because it has humbuckers. Now, do you need to use humbuckers? No, of course not. You can use single coils and it would sound as good. But it's going to sound different. It's going to sound, if you use single coils, it's going to sound thinner, and it's not going to have the punch that a humbucker would have. Humbuckers are a little bit warmer and fuller. Single coils are all about clarity and sharpness. You want to be, if you want to be really clear and use like that kind of overdrive sound that Jeff Beck has, or guys like Santana on his newest record, he used a Strat. There's nothing wrong with using a Strat. A lot of the most amazing guitar players, Yngwie Malmsteen is who comes to mind right off the bat, uses a Strat, and it sounds awesome. Sounds huge. So you could use whatever you like. If your guitar has humbuckers, though, especially on the bridge, I would use that one. That's what I'm using, just to keep it simple. As far as guitar amps and all that I'm just using bias effects, and I just have my own guitar patch that I'll probably post a screenshot of what it looks like on here. That's what I'm using. I'm just using bias effects through Logic, and that's what I'm using to record the audio, and then my camera from my phone is what I'm using for the video. Okay, so we're going to break this down into chunks. First thing I want you to do is have your guitar in drop C tuning, so it sounds like this. You can look up online how to tune your guitar to drop C. Let's figure out this first chunk. So the first chunk goes like this. Okay? And it doesn't sound quite right off the bat because I'm not playing it faster, but if I play faster, right, that's kind of what's going on. It's not 100% right still. I keep thinking it's like a sweep arpeggio or something, but it's close. It's close enough that I would use that. So what I'm doing here is 15, 17, 18. I'm picking the 15th fret, but I'm hammering on the 17th fret and the 18th fret. And the way I do it is, first of all, I use my fingertips, not the pads, and I basically just want to put my finger down with enough force so that way it makes a note. Right? Imagine like you're tapping with your left hand. That's kind of what's going on. So one way to practice this is just do 15, 17. So I'm using my first finger, then my middle finger. Once you're comfortable doing that, now do 15, 18. So first finger, ring finger. And now combine it so it sounds like this. So you're actually doing two hammer-ons here. Right? So that's how I would practice a hammer-on. Just keep doing that for a while. And you want to be able to hear every individual note. So since I'm doing 3 notes there, I want to hear da-na-na, 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 right? The second you hear something like I would stop and I would check what the heck I'm doing and go slower. So you want to start slow and then increase in speed as you go, okay? And you would practice that all over the neck. So let's make up some other hammer-ons. I would go to the D string and maybe I would do 9, 10, 12. You know, how would I do that? I would use my first finger, middle finger, pinky. And then on the G string, maybe I do 10, 12, 13. Now I'm using my first finger, ring finger, and my pinky. And then maybe I go to the B string, and then I do 12, 13, 14, 15. Right? Maybe I would do some chromatic hammer-ons for a while, and then just to get the fingers loose, you know, you have to learn and develop the technique, because as you do it, it's going to get better. And this is one of the techniques that if you spend more time, just like when you're watching Netflix or watching TV or whatever, watching Twitch or whatever the heck people do, you know, you just kind of fumble around guitar. That's one thing you would practice, and you would feel it, and it would get better. Let's move on. So now I'm doing 15, 17, 18. Right? And then on the high E string, I'm doing 13, 15, 8. There's 13, 15, 17. And then I do a little bend, 17 to 18. So that's where the B comes in for that bend. And I do just a little bend, 17 to 18 on the high E. And then I do vibrato. So when I do vibrato, I could use one finger, I could use many fingers, it doesn't really matter. I'm using multiple fingers here, right? Same thing with bending. You can use multiple fingers or use one finger. In this case, I have my ring finger here on the 17th fret bending to the 18 already, so I just keep the other fingers here. The rule I would use is that, say if you're using your first finger, there's no other fingers to help you when you do vibrato or bending. If you use your middle finger, it's the former finger that can help you. So if I'm using my middle finger, I can use my first finger to help me. If I use my ring finger, I can use 3. If I use my pinky, I can use 4, right? And they can all help me. The other fingers can go on whatever fret, doesn't really matter, but I keep them bunched up, and they're just there to help you push up or do whatever. For bending and vibrato, the high E, B, and G strings, you bend, do vibrato this way. For the other 3 strings, you bend and do vibrato that way. Okay? Very important. So let's do that first chunk one more time. Okay? That's the idea. That's very slow. Chunk number 2 sounds like this. Sounds harder than what it really is. It's just kind of like 2 arpeggios. So I'm using this kind of just regular kind of shape arpeggio, and it's the D, G, and B string. I'm doing a down sweep, so I'm playing 3 strings. It sounds like that. Pretend you're playing a chord, but the way you do it is you pick the note, you lift the finger off. Okay, that's what it sounds like. Because if you keep the finger down, it's just like, it sounds like a chord. Right, and it doesn't have the same sound. It does not have the same sound at all. You're trying to do a little sweep arpeggio here. So I'm playing 15th fret of the D, 14 on the G, 13 on the B. And then what I do is I hammer on from the 13th fret to the 17th fret, going straight into a bend. So it sounds like this. Okay, and then I come back down, do some vibrato to the 17th fret, the B. So very slow. Okay, that's kind of the idea there. And then it goes into this. And that's 17 to 14 on the G. And what I'm doing there is a pull-off. A pull-off is you literally have the next note you're going, so let's say you're going down the neck. So going up the neck is this way, towards the pickups. Going down the neck is the other way. And if I'm on one string here, I'm going to go down the neck to a lower note. And what I do here is I'm fretting the note I want to go to already. So I'm doing the, the 14th fret of the G. But I'm starting at the 17th fret of the G. So what I do is I pick, and then I pull down. Imagine you do the smallest, ever so smallest bend, and you cause, like if you imagine like you stretch out a rubber band and you just kind of like flick it a little bit, you know how you pull it, but it returns back to its position. That's exactly what we're doing here. We're just pulling on that string just a little bit, and then it just kind of snaps back into place. And I literally pull the string, if you look, and it returns to that kind of to that next note. Okay, so that's again something else you could practice. You could do 3 finger pull-offs. And here we just have 2 notes. So we're doing again 17, 14 on the G, and then I do 15, 14 on the D, slide to 12, and then hammer on, and then do a bend. So it sounds like this. And then chunk number 3 sounds like this. And that's 12, 15, 12 on the D, 14, bend to 15 on the G, and then we go 12, chunk number 4, the last chunk is 12th fret of the G, and then play 12th fret of the high E, and then bend that up to a 13, back down, 12, 10, and then 13 on the B. Okay, so let's play that all together really slow. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Do it again, basically. So let's do chunk number 1. And then chunk number 2. Chunk number 3. Now chunk number 4 changes though. It goes into this. So we have 2 sets of hammer-ons. We have the D string, 12, 14, 15, or G string, 12, 14, 15. And then we go 11, 13, 15 on the B, and then slide, bend 17 to 18. So it goes like this. So if I play it very slow, so when I slide, I bend at the same time. Very slow. And then we go back down 17, 15, 13, 15, all on the beat. So let me play chunk number 4 one more time for the second time around. And then end on the 15th fret of the B. So now I'm going to play this all together up to speed, and then we will go from there. So it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4. Played it a little bit sloppy. So the way I would do it is chunk number 1, chunk number 2, chunk number 3, chunk number 4, and then part B is chunk number 1, chunk number 2, chunk number 3, the other chunk number 4 that we just learned with the 2 sets of hammer-ons and that weird slide kind of thing where it goes. Okay, so that's the entire solo. I tried to break down as much as I could. There's definitely a lot going on. If you have any particular questions about like what exactly am I doing, feel free to leave a comment asking specifically what part. If there's a timestamp, tell me what timestamp you're trying to learn at and trying to figure out. The hardest part for sure, I think, is doing that slide into a bend. So I'm going to spend just a little bit more time talking about that. So I'm doing my hammer on, next hammer on, and as I slide, I bend the string already, right? So it's going, and that's probably the hardest thing to get down because that's all feel. That's all knowing the guitar and just practicing on the guitar well and just getting that feel down. You just have to be patient. You just have to get that dexterity down. Is first and foremost, the number one thing you gotta get down is just that dexterity. Okay. Then after that, all the notes and everything is like whatever. Eventually it becomes a lot easier the more you practice. All right. So have a good one.